Okay, so still February 2nd, 2022, quarter to 10 in the morning. Like I said, just starting my day. So there's those cucumbers that I've been fermenting in this since I put them in there, people. Now, I did lift up the lid a couple of times. I added water a few times. So far, the last time I looked, you can see there's still water in there. It was looking pretty good inside. And as it is right now, it is still looking pretty good in there, considering all things said. It smells good. It smells really good. Now, I know my son really likes these things. He doesn't know how to make them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 jars anyway. I don't know how many jars I'm going to get, but always add in an extra couple because you just don't know. Right? So I'm going to do 3 liter size jars for sure. Right? I want to give to Tisha, but I don't know if she'll, well, maybe I'm going to do a couple of these, right? This size. And I'll probably take what's in there and just cut them up into smaller pieces and then put them in here. And I'll give a jar to Tisha so she can give to Alea May and try it herself because I don't know, right? I know Andre loves them. Amari likes them. Marcaine loves them. I like them. I love them too. Tisha, you know, she's a little more picky, right? But, you know, this is something that we need to do in our households in order to bring in that stability, right? Okay? So this was just a tester. I was just testing this out. So before you do that into jars, you make sure you wash everything. These are already washed. So I'm putting them in the oven now because I have my oven on at 250 for, I don't know. I can't remember, 20 minutes or whatever it is. I'll probably leave them in there for an hour at 250. Jars like that in the oven at 250 to sterilize your jars can be in there for 24 hours, okay? Like if you put them in the oven and you get distracted and you can't get to them right away and whatever, and don't worry, they're not going nowhere. They'll be sterilized. They're good, okay? And then once they're sterilized and I'm ready to go, then wash your hands, right? Put your hands in there, I guess. Start taking out the cucumbers. You put them into your sterilized jars. Then you take the liquid and you put it into your jar. And as long as the liquid is over the food, you technically shouldn't get any problem. And then once I get them into that state, what I do is I put them in the fridge, of course, Auntie ShaMay's fridge. And I'm telling you, people, they can sit there for years. Okay? And my neighbor will verify that, okay? Because she's eaten her whatever she did 3 years ago, and she's just coming to the end of it. Okay? As long as you don't get mold growth on top, you're good. If you come into a jar that's been sitting in the fridge for a long time, and it looking nice and clean on top, smells good, you're good. If there's mold growing on top, and in that situation, everything would go into the compost. Okay? Out of all the jars that I had in the past like that, in terms of I had like 7 jars or whatever it was, only 1 molded up on me. And as a matter of fact, I still have some in my fridge from the last time, years ago, that I did this. Okay? So, but this is something that I need to incorporate on a more regular basis, right? Because what happens is I get in here, I do all this food prep, things get pushed to the back, I'm not digging because I'm doing other things, and before you know it, months go by and blah, 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 blah. But if you open up your jar, chances are it will be fine, and you're good to go. So, some people don't put them in the fridge, they just take them off into a cool, very, very, very cool pantry, and they leave them like that. So I don't know, I'm not an expert on this stuff. I know that I do want to do sauerkraut, ferment, and then can it where it's sealed. Does that change the probiotics in the food? Probably, because you're using some kind of heat to some kind of degree, right? And in a situation like that, I'd be leaning more towards that 190 that at least pasteurizes everything versus boiling for, 20 minutes in a or whatever, but you know, I haven't gotten to that point yet. My neighbor's doing some research on that. I asked her, because we're talking about, you know, doing this more. So hold on. And then, because of all this kahuffle stuff going on, this thing has been sitting on my stove for quite a few days, going into the third day or something, I don't know. Whenever I did this. And I basically had it on between 2 and 3. There was a period where I turned it off for a little while and then I brought it back up. Anyway, what I'm doing now is I'm bringing it with the bones inside. These bones are going to completely disintegrate. When you let a pot sit like this on your stove for a couple of days with bones inside, doesn't matter the bones, they actually do start to disintegrate. So what I'm doing is I'm just heating it up, going to bring it to a boil, and then I'm going to keep it on a medium-high boil for about 10 minutes just to boil out those last little bit of nutrients from the chicken itself, right? Then I'm going to strain it, right? And then I'm going to can it. Broth, just broth, nothing but broth. And then the bones and the meat and everything I'll just give to the cats. I got some old rice around, so maybe I'll make a little bit of cat food because we're running out of cat food in the grocery stores.
Thank you for being here with me. We'll see you tomorrow.
When you have it on stew for a long time, and the bones start to, you know, disintegrate, you can actually begin to taste it. Right. That's one thing I noticed when you leave something on the stove like this for a couple of days. This one's pushing on 3 and 4. That's why I'm bringing it to a really high boil, and then just let it boil on for a little while, and then strain it, and then probably can it. Mind you, it doesn't even really taste the way I would want it in terms of a quote-unquote chicken broth, unless I wanted to add in more chicken to build in that chicken flavor. But, you know, in the signs of the times, 4 jars or 5 jars of really enriched broth with the, you know, the marrow and just everything that's in chicken bones, basically. Really what it needs is just a bit of salt. So maybe I'll just, after it strains and everything, I'll just add a bit of salt on it, see if I like it with the salt, just a little tad bit. And then, because, you know, it's just, we don't know, people. The economy right now is just too crazy. I was just listening to that Laura Lynn person, that individual, and because she's up in Ottawa with the truckers, and I guess the truckers have enough money to hang out at the Parliament buildings for 2 to 3 years. Okay? Right? And as that happens, more and more people are going to jump on that bandwagon, no matter where they are in Canada, if the economy continues to go in the direction that it has been in because of corrupt politics and politicians, basically, that have been bought off by foreign entities that have infiltrated Canada and have absolutely no right to be here. Okay? Still tasting it. It needs more of a chicken flavor. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll go find some chicken and throw some chicken in there just to enrich it a bit more. But I'm kind of doing other things, so it's hard to say. Okay, so now we're going to just continue. Alright, I'm not going to need this many jars for, this is the end of my quart size. Tisha still has to get me another 1 or 2 cases just to have on hand. I don't plan on doing anything with them, but if my neighbor comes and gives me 6 more boxes of something, then in that situation, it might be a good thing. Or if I decide to go into my, what is that called? Freezer and can something when I'm not so pressed for time and stressed out, then perhaps I'd do that. But besides that point, so I strained it after I brought it to a boil. Now what's happening here is when bones sit in a pot for a day or 2 or 3, what happens is they become really soft. I think this is when it becomes bone broth. Under normal circumstances, you couldn't do that. to a bone. And it wouldn't take, see, I can mush. Do you see what's going on here? Okay. Because it's at, any bone will do that if it's in a pot for a long time. Okay, and I think that's when it becomes an actual bone broth. Okay. And it tastes like chicken bone. I can taste it. I just licked my fingers. Anyway, I need a rag now. There we go. It's actually quite tasty. So, I got my canner ready. And I'm going to just can up the broth because we're not going to be wasteful. There's a shortage on chicken in general from store to store. And I can taste the bone. In fact, with the fact that it's been stewing for a long time. Okay? I wanted it a little more richer in chicken taste, but I'm not going to throw any more chicken. And okay, I only did that because I got the chicken and I didn't. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with one of these and a little bit of salt just to give it a bit more flavor before I can it. And that's it. Right? Technically, you should put it in the fridge, let it gel, skim off the fat, and then can it. But I don't got time for that. So, and as long as in a very cool place in the dark, if you have, when the grease comes to the surface, because it will, even if you think right, it's still going to come. Chances are of your jar popping, it won't pop because the grease won't crawl because it's solidified. Okay, so that problem is solved. So hold on. Okay, so I feel like I've been stung by scorpions or something. More than one. You know, I feel kind of like slightly paralyzed from all what's, I take this stuff serious, people. Okay, it's a very volatile economy that I'm living in right now. And, I can't just assume things. Anyway, in terms of the end result of where I'm at right now in life, I had to take it serious. Anybody would. Okay. But it's a lot of stress. I'm not moving, and plus my eyes. So anyway, you can see that it's already starting to solidify. Right? Now I'm debating whether I should take that off or just leave it in there, because it's not going to be too much, and that always gives flavor. Right? And when I label my jars, I'm going to label them chicken bone broth. Not chicken broth or chicken stock. It will be chicken bone stock, because it's stewed for so long that it basically pulverized the bones, right? Which is good for the cats, So I'll probably take what's in the pot there, chicken and all, freeze half of it, and give the other half to the cats right now. Mind you, I don't have a lot of room in my freezer right now, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just put it in the fridge and just they get a treat for now. If I had more time, I'd take that and throw in a little bit of rice, a little bit, make it go a little further. But we're not completely out of cat food in stores yet. So anyway, it's 20 minutes in a pressure canner. Okay, you don't have to wash the jars. I'm sorry, you don't have to disinfect your jars, sterilize them like I'm going to do for those, right? But you do have to have clean jars. So I've already wiped the rims, and now I'm going to put the lids on. You only screw on your bands finger tight, put it in your canner. You know what to do, right? And then, what do you call it? See, I'm moving so slow, can't even think. 20 minutes. Don't open, after your little knobby drops, everything looks like it's okay to open. Don't open it right away, because this is where you're going to get that vortex going, okay? You bring it out into the ambient air, different temperatures. It just speeds it up faster, and it makes your jar pop, seal, pop, seal, pop, seal. It does that less if you just let it cool down a little more in the canner first before you take it out. Okay, that's what I've learned by doing this. By finger tight, I should be holding the jar. See, wandering eye. You just, that's it. Okay? And then, as that's going, I'm going to get into this, do that, because the jars are sterilizing, and then that's probably going to be it for the day, because I just feel awful right now. I feel so drained. But before I end this, I do want to say that Lucy has been going into my old videos. And anyway, she brought to the attention the last video that I just, it's an old video from 2015, February 26th of 2015. Just a few days after they took Uncle John from the temporary care ward out of there. Okay, he had been there for almost a month, and then I went with Andre to go see him because John told me to go get a lawyer, and I had already phoned Paul, so I went to go tell John that I talked to Paul about helping us with the situation that was developing, and when I got there he was gone. But when I got to his room and looked where his bed was, I seen the hammock, people. I seen the hammock. That was the same hammock that they had when they had him at the Surrey Memorial Hospital, and they drugged him up in the fucking halls when he first got into emergency, kept him in the halls for a couple of 2-3 days, and then moved him upstairs. And then I went and seen him, and I asked him, I said, what's that hammock? He said, that's my hammock. That's how they transported me from the gurney onto the bed. I said, oh, okay. Well, that was the same hammock that was already hoisted with a bunch of people standing around his bed. And I came in through the door, and I stood there with Andre, and I said, where's John? And then this ugly looking fucking hag turned around. It was probably Eleanor Gilding, his sister, his loving nurse of 40-year sister. Get out of here, get out of here, you're being disrespectful. And because there was like so many people around, right, I went straight from there. I turned around and I went with Andre straight down to the doctor's station, asking for a doctor. Everybody, there was one doctor standing there. And I go and I said, "Where's John?" He said, "John." I said, "Yeah, you know, John. They're saying John's not there." "Oh, I don't know where John is. John's been released." I said, "What?" "Oh, hold on." And then they wanted to call that fucking funky fucking social worker. The one that screeched at the top. "By any means necessary, John's going into convalescent care, or he's going to his sister's. By any means necessary." On February 17th, when we had that meeting with him and her, it wasn't even legitimate, people. Okay? It wasn't until months later, time went by, and I finally, I don't know how long it took me, almost a year, people. It was over a year. It was over a year before I got a photocopy of the enduring power of attorney. I already had power of attorney. I had 2 powers of attorney. I had enduring and power of attorney. The enduring power of attorney was signed in 1990, people. That one, they hid from me. The bank refused to give to me, right? Told me to take them to go get a lawyer to get that information because they knew what they were fucking doing, people. Okay, what happened was John inherited money from Joan, who died in December of 2013. His extended family didn't tell him about it until they basically fucking medically kidnapped him, doped him up, put him in a fucking hammock, whisked him off to Victoria, said that's how they found him because he was like almost dead by that time, by the time he woke up and realized what the hell happened, right? And because they had doped him up so bad to put him in that fucking hammock and transport him on the ferry in the bottom of in the carport and on the ferry. Oh yeah, no wonder why they took him straight to the fucking, what is that called? Emergency ward at the general hospital, right? And then, you know, ShaMay's calling Cheryl, the cousin, or the niece, right? Eleanor Gilding's daughter, to find out where John is. And all that girl wanted was telling ShaMay to come to me to get his superannuation life insurance policy, people. That's all they wanted. And I said, superannuation life insurance? John doesn't have superannuation life insurance. He canceled that when he was 65, people. When they took him, he was 76. And they took him under duress. And they didn't tell him that he inherited money from Joan's superannuation life insurance policy. She had been dead for 14 fucking months. And the only way they could have taken him was the way they did it. A Surrey flu came through the fucking community. Everybody got it. He was the last one. And because of his age, he developed bacterial pneumonia, right? Got a little loopy, because I guess that's what happens to old people, right? And instead of just taking him to the doctor, I said, gee, John, I don't want you to sleep for a week like I did and get dehydrated and die on me. And then, right? Get loopy is like, fuck. Right? Him and I, we made the right decision, people. But not even 2 days after by the time he got upstairs, he was downstairs in the hall on a gurney, okay? He wasn't even allowed to get up and go to the fucking bathroom. And it was gurney after gurney after gurney on both sides of the freaking hall. All the way down around the corner and everywhere, okay? Finally, they moved him. I came upstairs. I did an interview with him. And we talked. He told me to fight, right? Because as soon as I went to the hospital, the social worker, it was like the third or fourth day, the social worker wanted to speak to me. And the first thing she wanted to know was who had power of attorney. That was their first fucking question out of her mouth, people. Right? And then saying that he needed to go into convalescent care. I said, excuse me? I said, he hasn't even been in, what's wrong with him? First of all, tell me what's wrong with him. Because nothing had been confirmed yet, right? Oh my God. That's when I went straight to John and I said, look, John, something's fucking fishy. And he told me to fight, people. Okay? He said that they were going to use his legs and his eyes against him. And they did. But that's because when he went to the hospital, I phoned up his mother. And I said, look, John's in the hospital. I don't know what's wrong with him. You might want to tell somebody from your side there to come see him, just in case. Right? Because I didn't know. I didn't know it was just a simple bacterial infection that created ammonia that can lead into temporary, delirium. But it's only temporary. Well, that was their cue, people. And because his sister was a nurse within the healthcare system for over 40 years, managing the provincial immunization program for all the fucking workers across the province when it comes directly related to the healthcare system, she came in wheeling and dealing with her bribe money because she was sitting on Joan's inheritance that she left for John that bitch didn't tell John about, right? Until she got John exactly where she wanted him, in a fucking hammock, all drugged up on a ferry, in the bowels of the ferry to boot, and then had it's like a coward. She rushed him to the Victoria General Emergency, people. And said that's how she found him. Have that on video recording from almost the horse's mouth. What's her name? Eleanor's daughter from Cheryl. And then partnered up with those social workers and just fucked them over, people. Just fucked them over. And then about a year after the fact, they finally closed the account. Well, they didn't close the account. You see, that's the thing. I still have signing authority on John's account because it was never done through a court of any kind. What they did is they kicked out my bank card that I had with him, people. Because, right? I had power of attorney. I paid the bills, right? And it took him about a year and a bit. And then that's when I came across another bank manager that actually had the decency to give me a photocopy of the original enduring power of attorney. That's why they were flipping all the time. Some days John was confused, other days John wasn't confused. When it wasn't convenient for them, John was confused. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They're the ones that were confused because they were conniving and plotting and scheming and conspiring on how to steal his money, people. And they think they got away with it. And they did. Because when it came in front of a judge and I started to cite everything that fell under the Criminal Code of Canada and all the various legislations that directly related to the province of British Columbia, Canada, and how those people dealt with that situation at hand at the time under their fucking rules, regulations, and mandates, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to do, people. So he sent me to the cops. That was his ruling. When in fact his job should have been to make an inquiry for an investigation and put fucking Andrew the Dragon in his place. Because clearly Andrew the Dragon knows what the fuck went down. Okay? And now they're doing it to tens of thousands of elderly people because they got away with it with Uncle John. And they're even more ruthless than they've ever been. And that's why we have a high death count of the elderly being severely neglected by our governments right across the board, people. Being separated from their families right across the board in terms of the continent, people. Right? So just know that the reason that they took him was twofold. Not only did he inherited money from Joan that they didn't tell him about for 14 fucking months until he was in a hammock, doped up in the bowels of a ferry, being transported from a temporary care ward into an emergency ward. Okay? Let the fucking judge deal with that shit. Right? And then the second one was, as soon as he was there, the phone calls started up was, where's John's superannuation life insurance policy? Well, John's laughing in his grave. He canceled it through that pick a plan. At age 65. He wasn't going to pay into something that he knew his family would rob. So it backfired on them, people. Okay, so just as a note here, try and space out. You can see, I mean, obviously when you have a oh boy, that's not good for the camera. Obviously when you have a full canner, you can't do that. But when you're just working with a few jars, just do that, right? Okay, so we got one tall. These two. I ended up putting some of these in a wet jar, so I had to put them back in the dehydrator. It will be enough just to fill up this jar with ground up. You can see. This is actually pretty good for Amari. Alright, so I might because, you know, jars are jars, right? So I might end up grinding this up yet and putting it in this size instead. And in this way, I open up myself a big jar. I still have 4 more. And of course, Tisha's out and about still looking for jars. So I know I got 4 more, but anyway... Here is that maple sugar. Okay. Oh, it's so good, people. And that wasn't even a half a bag between those. So I got a half a bag plus 1 full bag. So in other words, it would take 4 of these and 4 of these to pack them away. So I got 3 of these jars left. Right. If I do this, like this, and just leave those, right? But I don't know yet. I'm thinking just to keep these out, right? Because I've got other shredded carrots, so. Anyway, I'm ready to start. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I took these out of the oven. I'm just been giving them a little time to cool down. They're still kind of warm. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to take those out, put them in there, top them off with the liquid, put on the lids, and then take them down to Auntie ShaMay's fridge, basically. Right, for now. for now, and then I'll deal with it later. The stock is still in the stove, so when this is done, we'll put the stock there, and we'll all right. And after that, I noticed that there was some, what is that? Some old TV dinners that I made a long time ago on video. I found in the back of the freezer in Auntie ShaMay's room. So I'm going to grab a couple of those up, and I'm going to make it. I have a little bit of lettuce. I'm going to make a bit of salad. I'm going to go and feed the kids, and I'm going to eat, lay down, and watch a movie, and probably fall asleep. I can't do yams and sweet potatoes today. I'm just too tired, and like I said, I feel like I've been through a ringer. Like my body is not feeling that great right now. So this is where you got to pace yourself, right? So as long as I can get these going and ready to go, these will end up being vacuum sealed, the ones that are going into storage, because I'd only leave 2 out. And even then, I bought a brake bleeder where I can vacuum seal with a brake bleeder as I'm going in and out of my jars. I just haven't gotten around to that yet. But those ones definitely will be going into storage. I probably won't put these downstairs. I'll put them in a different cupboard upstairs. How many there is that I just... The sugar itself is just too expensive, right? So I just will do that like that. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so I'm going to end this video now because really I'm very weak right now, people. Okay, I can only handle so much stress. So as you can see what's going on here now, this is the chicken bone broth. Okay, I'm going to put bone on there because that was stewed for a long time and you've seen what happened. So that's really enriched. Okay, and then interesting how the chicken stock is almost the same color as the liquid from the cucumbers. Now, mind you, these cucumbers weren't technically fermenting cucumbers, okay? But I tasted it, and it was quite good, okay? They're mushy, though. I didn't have no crisping agent in it, right? Plus, I cut them, okay? But I've done that before with a different kind of cucumber, and I still have them in my fridge. Next video or two, I'll pull them out, and we'll compare them and see what's going on. Now, I took out the things that were floating, the little spices, as best as I could, because these are going downstairs, not this one and not this one, okay? We're going to do stuff. This is the cabbage leaf that was on top, and then I just cut some of those up and put it in a jar, right? Get back on that bandwagon with eating this stuff, and I've got already a jar in my fridge. As long as there's no mold on top, people, they can stay for a long time. That's why I like to take things that float to the top off. I don't know if you can see. Right? You can see that. Because then what happens is there's nothing there for mold to grow on, right? It's best to have just plain old liquid if you can do it. And they'll store for years as long as there's no mold growing. And depending on how they went into the jar in terms of crispy or uncrispy, like these ones are mushy, they're going to stay mushy. But I bet you the ones that are in my fridge are still fairly crispy. Okay? Could have been the time of year that I did them, right? There's lots of variables. I don't think any fermenting process is always equal to, right, in terms of getting the same. See, I don't like those floating on top when I'm putting them in storage. Now, the thing about fermented liquid, because you're only using salt, guess what you can do? As long as you can tolerate salt, you can actually drink this. You can. I'm going to use this and make my own salad dressing a little bit today with just plain mayonnaise. And you see, in a situation like that, you could mix in some of that dehydrated yogurt and whatever, right? But you can actually drink this. And it's good. The difference between this and vinegar pickle juice is if you drink vinegar pickle juice too much. Because it's vinegar, it can thin your blood. That's why you shouldn't drink too much pickle juice from, standard pickles with vinegar brine. This, for somebody that has heart problems with salt, it was a big container with 3 tablespoons of salt, right? I can taste the salt, but it's not overwhelming. And I can taste the fermentation, and I can taste the garlic. It tastes actually quite good. It tastes like it's supposed to taste. So I filled up these cucumbers. I had to cut them, right? They're only going up to about this high in the jar. I didn't, right? I followed the directions. I would have preferred to have them go up and down. But besides that point, you can see it only goes up so far, right? The rest is all liquid. I decided to keep it so that as I bring up a jar, try and incorporate it into your meals, because that's good for you, right? It has the probiotics. Yeah, that's delicious. So that's how you know it's good. And there was absolutely no mold, right? I didn't even get that little white stuff going. It's a yeast of some kind, right? If you do it in a different container. Okay, so then I'm almost done with the carrots. What's in the dehydrator just drying off because I got them a little damp when I put them into a wet jar. I'm going to fill up this jar. I'm going to keep this jar upstairs. I'm going to try and incorporate it mainly into Amari's meals, right? Or maybe I'll make cream of carrot soup. I don't know yet. And I'll keep this one up. See, my kids, they don't really use dehydrated at this point in life, but it might come to that, people. Some carrots is better than no carrots. So, I'm glad I have them. No regrets. Okay? My son already took down 2 jars of canned carrots. So I've got 5 more here. So I did 7 cans of canned carrots, shredded. And then, what was it? How many? Well, there's 10 of these, which is really good, that you can make tomato carrot soup, right? Cream it if you want. Very good. Those are all down. Then we've got that. We know what's going on with this. This is the maple sugar, which I'm going to keep up, and then I would combine. See, I would combine these two for Amari with lots of butter. Now I've been collecting butter. I've been getting Tisha buying me butter when she goes out. And I still need a bit more, but I'm going to end up attempting to make ghee yet, because that's a food group that you can make and store for a very, very, very long time. You can do butter. They say, so-and-so says you can't, but other people have. So I may attempt to do butter as well. So I'll do ghee and butter, but I have to still get a bit more 1 pound butters. And then that's that chicken and that beef. And I will be doing the cod, the black cod yet. As a matter of fact, I'm going downstairs. No, I'm not gonna push it. I have a new bottle of olive oil I bought specifically for that reason. So over the next week or 2, we're going to do the cod with olive oil. I'm looking really forward to that. I still have those apples that my neighbors gave me, and because they're really big and the ambrosios, right? But I want to start with the yams and the sweet potatoes first, but I did pull down my other dehydrator. So I'm still going to be busy for a while, right? Because I've got a fair amount of these apples, and so I'm going to slice them. This is where lemon juice comes in handy, because you dip it into lemon juice after, right? and then put it on your tray and you dehydrate them. And I'm going to do that for the kids. For Leia May, I don't know if she'll eat, but she probably will. And for Andre and perhaps myself. And I could even take a slice and put it in with some carrots, cook it up for Amari, and then sprinkle a bunch of, with butter, right? And then sprinkle in real maple sugar, okay? He tends to take things better if it's a little sweeter, right? So, and maple sugar is good because it's a natural food source and it has, you know, the various minerals and vitamins and I would suspect even calcium in it, right? So, now I'm going to take these ones downstairs. Oh wait, that's the soup. That's the stock. No, I'm not taking those. They have to cool now, right? I'm going to take these 3 jars downstairs for now, right? If you notice, I brought it pretty much right up to the rim. Now you see those little things there? That could be suspect in terms of being something to attract mold growth, right? So if you do stuff like, oh, wandering eye, I'm sorry, I'm just like, I'm so bagged right now, you don't know. I don't want to stick my finger in there. And these are sterilized jars, so make sure you sterilize your jars in the oven. Okay? Although the salt is, you know, a preserving agent anyway, but still. Anyway, we'll get that out. So I brought it up high. And I've decided that because this is good, I could sip on this and drink it all, really.
Thank you for that, and you did absolutely nothing wrong. I saw the videos. You were telling people not to go.
But
You were telling people
I want to make, what is that?
and you were doing everything right, but it's people like Ray S.
Salad dressing.